Have you ever felt like you're talking to a super polite, but let's be honest, an incredibly boring robot? You ask your AI for this brilliant, earth-shattering insight, and what you get back is basically a Wikipedia summary? Well, in this explainer, we're going to fix that. I'm going to give you a practical cheat sheet of what are called anti-Centroid prompts that will force any AI, and I mean any AI, to give you truly original and valuable answers. Let's dive in.
So, let's start with a feeling I am sure we've all had. You know, you ask a question, maybe you even try a few different AI models. You're hoping for that spark, that little bit of originality. But the answers all come back sounding, well, eerily similar. It's this really frustrating digital déjà vu. So what's going on here? Why do they all sound the same?
I mean, just look at this classic example. Ask any AI about the impact of social media, and you're almost guaranteed to get this exact word salad. Now, every single sentence here is technically correct, but the whole thing is completely 100% useless. It's so balanced, it's so hedged, it contains zero original thought. This right here is the exact problem we're here to solve.
Okay, to solve this, we've got to give it a name. The source material calls this the safe center, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the AI's default setting to produce answers that are just the statistical middle of the road of all its training data. And here's the key thing to get. This is not a bug. It's the system working exactly as it's supposed to. It's just a probability engine spitting out the most likely, least risky answer it can possibly find.
So if we want to break out of this safe center, we have to understand the forces that are pulling the AI right into it in the first place. So let's get into the mechanics of convergence.
There are basically three big forces pulling the AI towards the boring middle. First up is next token prediction. At its heart, an AI is just predicting the next most probable word. This creates this kind of consensus gravity that just yanks every sentence toward the average. Then you've got shared training data. You got to remember, most AIs are trained on the same massive pile of internet text. So of course they create these cultural centroids around the same old repeated ideas. And finally, there's alignment smoothing. This is the safety training that makes models helpful and harmless, but it also has the side effect of shaving off any interesting, sharp, or controversial edges. It favors caution over conviction every single time.
And that leads us to the most crucial takeaway here. This pull towards the safe, boring middle, it is not an accident, it's the default state. That means we can't just cross our fingers and hope for a better answer. No. If we want something original, we have to actively engineer divergence. We have to force it. And that brings us to the core principle of this entire toolkit, forcing divergence through constraint. You see, the way we force an AI to be original isn't by vaguely asking it to be more creative. It's by imposing smart, specific rules, constraints on its response.
Okay, let's break this quote down because it's super important. Low-density regions of its latent space. That's just a fancy technical way of saying the weird, interesting parts of the AI's knowledge that it doesn't normally visit. And how do you get there? By imposing constraints, by setting up rules that the generic, easy, default answer simply cannot follow. You're basically making this safe path a dead end.
Now, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just crank up the creativity or temperature setting. But here's why that's not enough. Turning up the temperature just reshuffles the same boring words inside that same safe center. It's like rearranging the furniture in the same room. But when you impose a constraint, you fundamentally change the shape of the problem itself. You're forcing the AI to go build a whole new room.
Okay, enough theory. Let's get to the practical payoff. This is the part you've been waiting for. Here is the prescription, the Anti-Centroid Toolkit. This is your actionable cheat sheet that you can start using, like, right now.
This right here is the heart of the toolkit. Each of these little phrases is a powerful constraint. Asking it to critique the question forces it to think about the question instead of just blindly answering. Demanding incompatible frameworks shatters consensus and makes it show you the trade-offs. Asking for trade-offs, not summaries, forces it to be specific and make choices instead of being vague. And my favorite, requiring counterintuitive points, explicitly pushes it into those weird, interesting, low-density areas we were just talking about.
Let's see this in action, because the difference is, well, it's night and day. On one side, you have our old, generic prompt. Explain the impact of social media. We all know what we're going to get back. But look at the constrained prompt. We've forced a specific mental model, systems thinking. We've forbidden the lazy default format of bullet points. And we've asked it to identify a primary feedback loop. Instead of that bland summary from before, you're going to get a deep, structured analysis. It's a guaranteed way to get something far more valuable.
You know, this brings us to a much bigger idea. These techniques, they're not just about getting more interesting answers. They are about fundamentally changing your entire relationship with AI.
moving from just asking for facts to actively co-creating actionable models of reality.
I really want you to remember this quote. The AI is not boring, the optimization problem you gave it was. This totally reframes our role, doesn't it? The quality of the output isn't on the AI. It's a direct reflection of the quality of the problem we gave it. The responsibility for an interesting output is on us.
So, if there's one thing you take away from this whole explainer, let it be this. Stop asking for an answer. Stop treating AI like it's just a fancy search engine. The moment you ask for an answer, you are pointing it directly at that safe center.
And if you want a simple test, a little rule of thumb for your own prompts, use this one. Before you hit enter, just ask yourself, does my prompt force the AI to make a meaningful choice? Does it have to take a stand? To sacrifice one idea in favor of another? If the answer is no, you need to add more constraints, because otherwise you're about to get a very, very safe and very, very boring response.
And this leaves us with one final provocative question. When you use these tools, you're not a passive user anymore. You become an active architect of thought. You are giving the AI the blueprint. So the real question isn't what you're going to ask it. The question is, what complex, interesting, and divergent model of reality will you ask it to build?